Today, let's look at how to improve calf strength and endurance. So when we look at the calf, yes, we want to be stronger and have more endurance, especially for runners, triathletes, endurance athletes, but really anyone in general, because we're using the calf so often, walking, running up and down stairs. So this is relevant to anyone. But we also want to make sure we have good range of motion and strength and endurance throughout that range of motion, which is why I'm going to show you a simple 4-exercise progression today on how to build calf strength and endurance throughout a greater range of motion. The first exercise is just a very simple basic calf raise or heel raise from a deficit, and we'll use this deficit throughout the first 3 exercises in this progression. So all the deficit is, right now I'm going to use a plate on the ground. You can use a stair at home, the curb on a sidewalk, any elevated surface, so that when you go up, you can get through that full normal calf raise as you would on the floor. But as you come back down, you're getting that lengthening throughout the calf and the Achilles, that whole calf complex there. So this is what I like, because we see a lot of people that are tight and restricted throughout the ankles, but we're so focused on stretching everywhere else, hips, shoulders, these other areas, that we tend to miss just that lack of mobility and flexibility throughout the calf and the ankle. So this is something that will help you build strength throughout that full range of motion. Obviously, I'm trying to use this door here as little as possible and really control myself throughout that range of motion. But building up anywhere from 20 to 30 repetitions. If we're going body weight, this is certainly something that you could add a single dumbbell or 2 dumbbells in your hand, which we typically do in later stages to build further strength. But just being able to build up 20 to 30 reps through that range of motion, find a height that works for you. So this right here, somewhat challenging, right? At this a 45-pound plate. I could even probably go a little bit higher, but we don't want to get to the point where we're just really straining through the calves at the bottom. We don't really need to push through so much range of motion. We want enough range of motion without forcing things. So now that we did the bilateral calf raise, the calf raise on 2 legs, we're going to switch to a 2-to-1 calf raise, because we want to start to transition to more single leg strength and endurance. Walking, running, up and down stairs. There's a huge single leg component in a lot of these things. So if we stopped just at that last exercise, doing calf raises on 2 legs, we tend to miss using 1 leg to control our body weight. So this is the next step on bridging that gap. So from here, all I'm going to do here, just to change it, I'm going to come up on 2, just like I would in the last one, but I'm going to lift 1 leg, making sure as I lift this leg, common thing that I usually see, people lifting up onto 2, and as they go to lower on 1, they're already lowering before that foot's coming off, okay? So we want to make sure from the top of the range of motion, I'm staying up, so you can see I'm staying up on my right foot, and I'm slowly controlling back down, heel to the ground. Bring my other foot back down, assist up, and then it's up to you if you want to alternate, work on 20 to 30 per side, but start to really develop that balance and that control on 1 leg through that eccentric phase. So that muscle's contracting as it's lengthening. We're building more strength throughout the entire range of motion rather than just that limited range of motion when the heels come back to the ground if you're doing it on the floor. Okay, now that we started to bridge the gap from 2 feet, 2-to-1, we're going to go to a single leg calf raise. This is typically the point where people tend to break down, and you really notice those differences either from one side to the other or just lack of endurance in general. So what we're going to do here, standard single leg calf raise. I like to come up in more of a single leg stance like this, but as long as that leg is off the ground and we're on 1 foot, that should be fine. Same thing, we want to build up about 20 to 30 repetitions. We have this large range of motion, larger than what we would utilize if we're on the floor, and I'm trying to, as much as possible, be able to balance and control without using this door. So doing both sides and really taking note at what point do you fatigue, okay? So we're at a point here doing single leg calf raises. A lot of people, maybe you, will notice a difference from one side to the other. So if you say, hey, when I get to my right leg, about 12, that thing, the calf, Achilles, everything really starts to burn. But on the left leg, I can get to 20, then it becomes challenging. That might tell you, hey, I need to do an extra set. If I'm doing 3 sets of this, I'm going to do that 3rd set just on the right leg because I know I need to build up that 12 to that 20, try to balance things out from side to side. So this is a good exercise that, as much as we are building strength, endurance throughout the range of motion, it also tells us, are there any kind of imbalances from one side to the next. But keep everything the same, 20 to 30 repetitions, good control, and trying to get away from holding any kind of external support so you have that balance and control on your own. So the next one, really tying it all together, we talked about, I mentioned it a couple times, balance, control, but also that strength throughout the entire range of motion throughout the calf and the ankle. So now we're gonna go into a single leg stance and add a calf raise into that. Surprisingly challenging. You'll probably see me stumble a couple times on this one because it's hard to do. Very relevant to endurance athletes, those that are on, for one reason or another, depending on your sport, in single leg stance and needing to be explosive out of that position. But overall, it is a very good exercise, a fourth exercise in that progression to work on or take the next step from what you improved in those last 3 exercises and put it kind of into motion here unassisted. So what we're gonna do here is come up single leg stance. From that position, raise up on the toes, lower down, switch. Remember, we want good range of motion on this one. What I typically see is a lot of people go up and then it's this limited range of motion, not even driving the heel fully off the ground. It's only about an inch or two. So I really want you to focus on getting up, really driving up onto the toes, but controlling. So you have to adjust and shift your body to find where you're in a good position to maintain that balance and that control. So same thing, working on 10, 20 repetitions of this, but really owning the position. So this is something that's a lot slower, a lot controlled. You have to really think about now controlling your strength and endurance that you built in the last 3 exercises and putting that into motion here in single leg stance. Thank you for taking the time for checking out this video today. Remember, this process takes time. I would take about 4 to 6 weeks at each stage of this calf raise progression, really to make sure you're building up enough strength and endurance to move on to the next. It's not something that one day we do one, then we quickly move to the next on subsequent days. No, take your time, control, balance, get away from using that support, and build up over a period of time, because progression is the best thing. Just gradually increasing the demand on the body to really train it how to complete this exercise and this movement properly will lead to the best long-term success. So if you have any questions about ankle mobility, range of motion, calf strength, endurance, feel free to leave me a message, and I hope I can help you more.